Okay. So the question says the sum to n terms. Now, the moment you see the word sum, it means you're talking about a series. The moment you see the word sum, it means you're talking about a series, which is an addition of all the terms. Okay? So the sum to n terms of an arithmetic sequence. This is very important. The sum of an arithmetic sequence is 36. Now, straight away, what must come into your mind is the Sn formula. Sn, okay, this formula, Sn equal to n over 2 times 2a plus n minus 1 times d. Because we are talking about an arithmetic series. The sum is the sum to n terms of an arithmetic sequence. Remember what I told you a few days ago, that a sequence and a series are related. You get a series from a sequence. You can also get a sequence from a series. Okay? So those two, they are related. Right? Then the next part of the question says, the first and last terms are 1 and 11 respectively. Determine the number of terms n and its common difference. So this whole question here, it's about an arithmetic sequence and an arithmetic series. Okay? So you need to know this formula, or you can know the system, which I told you about, n over 2 times a plus l. Okay? Also, the general term of an arithmetic sequence, you may need it. So Tn equal to a plus n minus 1 times d. Right? So these three equations, you may need them in this question here. So the way that I'm going to start first is by using the first formula. The sum to n terms of an arithmetic sequence is 36. I'm going to write it down using those equations. So first thing, I'll say Sn is equal to 36. Okay? Sn is equal to 36. But my Sn is equal to the first formula here. Okay? My first term is given. It says the first and the last term is what? It's a 1. So a is equal to 1. But for now, I'll write here 36 is equal to n over 2 times 2a plus n minus 1 times d. Then, when there is a here, since I know the first term is given, it's 1, I'm going to substitute a by what? By 1. If I do that, I'll end up having a linear equation in how many variables? 2 variables. Okay? So this becomes 36 equal to n over 2 times 2 by 1 plus n minus 1 times d. Okay? Then, if I simplify this, I can multiply both sides by 2. Okay? I can multiply both sides by what? By 2. If I do that, I'll get 72 equal to n times 2 plus. Now, because I need to formulate an equation, I'm going to simplify this part. I'm going to remove brackets here. Okay? And write that as, I'm going to write it as dn minus d, like that. Then I'll remove that square bracket, so I end up having 2n plus 2dn minus 2d. Okay? So this will be my first equation. Okay, I can factorize it. I can take out the 2 if I want. Yes? It's 2dn because see this d here. Wait. n times 2. Oh, sorry, squared. Well, thank you for that. So it's squared. Thank you for that. Never. So that's a square. Wait. That's 2n. I put that dn squared. That becomes, my mind is wandering around. So that will be dn. Okay, sorry for that. That's dn. This becomes Correct now. Yeah. Okay. Then, so that would be our first equation. Then we can call this one here equation 1. Then the second equation, we are going to use the fact that we have got a last term which is equal to what? To 11. Okay? Now with that last term, either I can use, if I try to use this formula here, means where there is Tn, I'll put 11. Where there is, I'll put 11 there. The first term I'll put 1. Then I can end up having another equation that I can make D the subject. And then I can carry on from there. Right? Or you can use the first one. So the second formula for the sum of the series, where there is L, then you put what? You put 11 there. But where there is Sn here, you have to put 36. And then you can equate now this one here and that one, but maybe you can start from there if you want. But I'm going to use the general term. Okay? I'm going to use what? The general term to create the second equation. Okay? So if I use my general term, let me go to the next page. If I use my general term, remember the general term is Tn equal to A plus n minus 1 times D. Right? The last term is 11. The first term is 1. Okay? That's n minus 1 times D. Now I can simplify that. Okay? If I simplify, I'm going to get 10 equal to nd or dn minus d. So I can call this one here my equation 2. Okay? I can call that one equation 2. Now, in equation 2, okay, I can make d the subject. I can also make n the subject, but I want to make d the subject. Okay? Now, for me to make d the subject, it means I have to write 10 equal to d times n minus 1. What this means is my d is going to be equal to 10 over n minus 1. Yes?
What did you do to
Where?
yes, so what did you do? Why didn't you just move it because it's no move empty away? You get what I'm saying?
Okay. Are you saying moving the nd to the left?
No.
The d. This minus d to the left.
And then it's
But I hope you are aware that these two terms both have got a d. I hope you are aware of it. So we have to factorize.
so
Okay? We have to factorize. Right? If you decide to make d the subject, you have no other way except to factorize it. If you decide to make n the subject, okay? You decide to make, then you take this minus d to the left, then you divide both sides by d. It's your choice, remember, whether you want to calculate d first or you want to calculate n first. It is your choice. Okay, so I'm going to use this equation together with this equation. So where there is d here, where there is d here, d there, I'm going to put 10 over n minus 1. Okay? Alright? So where there is d, we are going to put 10 over n minus 1 in this equation. So I'm going to rewrite that equation, 72. Okay, we go to the next page. So it will be 72 equal to 2n plus 2n plus it's 10 over n minus 1 times n squared. Okay? And here, okay, I can also carry on. Then I've got minus dn. So that will be minus n times 10 over n minus 1. Like that. Right? Now, your knowledge of equations is extremely important. And here we are going to end up having a quadratic equation because of this. Okay? You might end up having a quadratic equation. So when I simplify this, I'll get 72 equal to 2n plus 10n squared over n minus 1 minus 10n over n minus 1. Okay? Then you have to determine the what? The LCD. Okay? The denominator of this 2n is a 1. Denominator of that 72 is a 1. So what's the LCD? It will be n minus 1. So I have to multiply this 72 by n minus 1. So I'll have 72 times n minus 1 equal to, I have to multiply that 2n by n minus 1, so it will be 2n times n minus 1 plus 10n squared minus 10n. Now, since I have multiplied both sides by the LCD, I don't need to write any denominator anymore. Okay? It becomes a what? An equation. Okay? Becomes an equation with no denominators. So this becomes 72n minus 72 equal to 2n squared minus 2n plus 10n squared minus 10n. Okay, so we are going to end up having a quadratic equation, and we have to solve that quadratic equation. So I've got 2n squared on the right and another 10n squared. So I can say 0 is equal to, I'll take these two terms to the right, I'll get 12n squared. Okay, I added these two first. Okay, then I'll take this positive 72n to the right. Now these two will give me minus 12n. If I take that 72n, I'll end up getting minus 84n. Okay, then this minus 72, if I take it to the right, it becomes a plus 72. Okay, now fortunately here, we have a common factor, so I can simplify this equation. Well, there's a common factor. 12 is a common factor of 12, 84, and 72. So I can write it 0 is equal to 12 times n squared minus 7n plus 6. The reason why I'm factorizing is because it will make it easier for me to simplify. Okay? If I work with very large coefficients, it makes it more complicated. Okay? So you end up getting, okay, allow me to write from the right now. So we end up having n squared minus 7n plus 6 equal to 0. Okay. Now, I just want to tell you something. From my experience of doing math, when you get to a point like this one here, where you have got this equation, it should click in your mind that you are on track. Okay? Because that equation can easily be factorized, and you can get with the 12, you divide both sides by 12.
No, so what's in front of the
We're talking about this 12 here. This 12 here. Yeah, if you divide both sides by 12, you'll be left with n squared minus 7n plus 6. And if you divide this 0 by 12, you'll be left with a 0.
So, you see again, when you say minus 2n minus 10n plus 2n, give it.
Okay.
No, take this
Listen.
Yeah,
Okay, listen. Let's start from here. What's the highest common factor of 12? 84 is 72.
So,
It's 12. So I took out the 12 as a common factor. That's why I wrote this. Are you following that?
Yes.
And then, how do I eliminate this 12? I divide both sides by what? By 12. I don't need to show that step. I don't need to show that step. Okay? Because that step has no marks actually. Where you get marks is the standard form here, okay, of a quadratic equation, or here. The factorization part is just simplification, that's all. You can even move from here and write down the factors. Are you okay now?
Yes,
Right. Then this should be easy to factorize. Okay? So let's factorize. If you go to the next page, then it's going to become n minus 6 times n minus 1 equal to 0. So you end up getting n equal to 6 or n equal to what? To 1. Now you are going to end up having two values of n. You have to reject one of them. Okay? The one that I'm going to reject is what? N equal to 1. Because it's not possible to have a sum of terms of one term which is equal to 36. Okay? It doesn't make sense. You see the question? The question says the sum to n terms. Now, if n is equal to 1, we are saying T1 is equal to 1. Which won't make sense because the sum is what? 36. So we have to reject n equal to what? To 1. And it's important for you to indicate that you are rejecting n equal to 1 because the examiner might allocate a mark for rejecting that n equal to 1. Okay? Which means therefore our n is equal to what? 6. So we have 6 terms. Are you following?
Yes, sir.
The equation of A plus L. Because it's very easy, sir.
Yeah, but
The second one.
okay, listen. Okay, Piotr, okay, Piotr, remember what I said, it's your choice. I decided to use the general term. Next one. If you want, you can use that one. I thought you use it. If you do your math, no, you get full marks. Both ways you get full marks. Okay. Can I carry on? Okay, so we got our n. Now I need to go back to where I wrote d here. Where I wrote d got 10 over n minus 1. Right? So I need to determine what d is. Okay? So remember, d is equal to 10n is equal to 10 is equal to 10 over n minus 1. But what is n? It's a 6. So that will be 6 minus 1. And then you get 10 over 5. And then you get d equal to what? D is going to be equal to a 2. So the common difference is a 2. The number of terms is a 6. You can test if the answer is right. Right? The first term is a 1. So if you add a 2, you get a what? A 3. If you add another 2, you get a 5. Then you add another 2, and so on. Right? Yes? N is equal to 6. What is 6 minus 1? Sorry? I put the 6 here. Where? Okay, remember the last term is 11. That's the last term. Okay, remember that.
Yes.
Okay. Then, but here's the question. You're okay? Huh?
Yes.
Okay. If you're okay, then let's carry on. Okay. Now let's carry on to today's work. It means you don't have a question.